You're listening to Rewatch Culture, the podcast where we circle back and talk about our favorite Black TV shows that raised us, healed us, and angered us in many ways, but they are always going to live rent-free in our minds. I'm your host, Shanaye, your resident elder millennial and professional rewatcher. Let's get into it.
All right, let's jump into this week's rewatch, episodes 16 through 18 of A Different World, Season 1. Because Hillman was chaotic, dramatic, and teaching us lessons whether we ask for them or not. Let's start with episode 16. Whitley Gilbert, and as you guys know, if you guys have been listening, you know that Whitley Gilbert gives my favorite one-liners thus far. She said, "Ooh, that's clear as mud." And honestly, that's kind of how this whole episode felt. We open with the Hillman crew working on a play. Everybody's minding their business until Rick walks in and suddenly the girls are swooning like he's Morris Chestnut in 1995. And listen, y'all know the scene that I'm talking about, okay? From The Best Man, when Morris Chestnut walks in the room like, Lance, that man is a gift carved from God. But I digress. Even Millie, who her man is Ron, sitting literally next to her, is losing her composure. Okay, Rick was the bee's knees to these girls. Jaleesa is the stage manager, and she donated $35 to build the sets to Ron and Dwayne. In today's economy, that would have gotten you cardboard box and maybe a bucket of paint if you caught a sale. But back then, honey, Dwayne and Ron were able to make it do what it do because that set actually looked really good for $35. And they had change left over that they did not give to Jaleesa. Rick was giving Playboy from the moment he stepped on screen. Like, he immediately gave me the ick. I never saw it for him. Whitley, of course, hits us with another one-liner, and she's, cozying up to Rick, talking to him, and she tells him, "I feel like you've opened the drapes on my soul." Listen, Whitley Gilbert was talking that talk. I think that might have got me, if I'm being honest. So Denise also likes Rick, and the girls are beefing over him. And come to find out, this man had a girlfriend the entire time. So Denise is hurt because she really thought that she and Rick had a little something brewing between them. Then we get this iconic moment in the play. Maggie has written this play. That's what they've all been auditioning for. Maggie had to cut several pages, and I'm talking over 80 pages, out of this play because originally it was 4 hours long. So we get to the final day, they're performing the play, and Whitley let her emotions out during the play. And at one point, she wraps her hands around Rick's neck. She was not playing with him, okay? She was going off the script and let him know that he had her all the way messed up. Denise runs in to save her, and the girls have this mini empowerment moment mid-performance. I actually love to see when Denise and Whitley work together. They have a lot of jokes and banter between them, but when they come together, it's beautiful to see. And at the end, Maggie comes out so embarrassed because this is not the play that she wrote. It completely went off script, off the rails, all of the things. But that was episode 16. Now, episode 17, there's a Miss Hillman contest. So the winner gets their books paid for. And this is typically, obviously in the name, Miss Hillman, only girls enter this contest. And Whitley is freaking out about it because several women in her family have won the Miss Hillman title. And she's trying to be mama's baby again. Whitley lives to try and please her mother, almost to her detriment. But the girls decide Dwayne should enter. And Dwayne is like, "No, not me." And of course, Denise flirts with him. And that's all he needs. A little attention from Denise is all that Dwayne Wayne needs. And if she says, "I want you to jump," he will ask how high. So they convince him to enter this contest. It gets bad for Dwayne immediately. The fraternities start clowning him. They start drawing a woman's body underneath his head, calling him the USDA choice. They steal his clothes. And then at one point, Dwayne walks into the pit and he's in his gym outfit. He's in these little shorts. And Denise is like, "Why are you in these shorts?" And he's just kind of trying to brush it off. The coach comes in, played by Sinbad, and he's like, "I found your clothes." And Dwayne is really trying to get him to whisper because he doesn't want everybody to know that his clothes have been stolen. Of course, Ron's big mouth announces it to the entire pit. He's like, "Oh my God, and they stole your clothes too?" Here, Dwayne is embarrassed yet again. So Dwayne and the coach are talking. And he's like, "Did you hear the way that they were howling at me?" And the coach hits him with the truth, honestly. "So you've never howled at a woman?" And Dwayne says, "Well, they like that. I don't." Which brings us to the cultural moment. Why were we taught that boys being mean to you meant that they liked you? Why were we taught that catcalling was normal? Our society was so backwards, conditioning kids to think toxic attention equals affection. No, I shouldn't be waiting for the boy who is mean to me. I shouldn't feel like, oh, he likes me because he's mean to you. How about we just be regular and treat each other kind and with respect? I think in this day and age, we're getting more towards that, but we definitely had some societal backwards ideas. But I'd love to hear what you guys think. Do you think it's harmless? I'm just wondering what your thoughts are. Now we're at the pit and everybody is about to give their speech for, the Miss Hillman contest. Whitley's up there saying, honestly, a whole lot of nothing. And then Dwayne is late. Everybody has told Dwayne to quit. Even Maggie, who's Miss Positive, told Dwayne to quit. So he's late. Denise takes the time to get up there and talks about everything that makes Dwayne wonderful and lets people know that the way that they've been treating him is absolutely unacceptable. And Dwayne walks in and he's learned something. His final speech is great. He realizes that catcalling is tired, weak, and absolutely not the move. I hated to see Dwayne down in the dumps because people are barking at him, they're catcalling at him, doing all of the things, but it really taught him that, hey, maybe the way I'm operating with women is also not on the up and up. Whitley gives us yet another gem, and she says, how pathetic to win by perseverance. Oh my gosh. If there's one thing that you can say about Whitley, is that she's always going to let you know what is on her mind, right, wrong, or indifferent. She's going to be her 110% of the time. Doesn't win the Miss Hillman contest. Actually, neither does Dwayne. And she's kind of spiraling because, again, this is another opportunity where she wanted to try and make her mom proud and she didn't win. So she kind of rehearses how she's going to call her mom and tell her, you know what, I'm going to live for myself. This was after a little pep talk from Denise. Then she makes the call, but the episode goes off. I'm really hoping that Whitley let her mom know what she needed to know. Like, this is my life and I have to live it. And I love you, but I can't kill myself trying to please you because that's making me miserable. And honestly, how many of us out there haven't done the same thing? We just want to make our parents proud. And sometimes, depending on what it is, it's at the detriment of our own happiness. But at the end of the day, when your parents truly love you, just be who you are. Just talk to them. Just let them know, like, hey, I know this is the path that you wanted for me. Maybe you wanted me to be a doctor, but I want to be an artist. And hopefully they are accepting and they should have unconditional love for you and still support you. That's my hope. But that is episode 17. So, episode 18 here. This is kind of the first episode that I've seen Jaleesa off of her rocker when it comes to schoolwork. She has to give a speech and she is absolutely nervous, anxiety, terrified to do this speech. And Denise and Maggie, are trying to hype her up. And they're like, okay, practice on us. You can't be as bad as you're saying. She absolutely was as bad as she was saying. She sounded like a robot. She just read those cards off word for word. And I'll be honest with you, I am not much of a public speaker. And sometimes I have to do it in my job. And when I get up there, I promise you, I'm like an Eminem song, like palm sweaty, feeling like I could throw up. It's just not my gift. Like, I'm very good one-on-one with people, but when I get up in a public room and I see people staring at me, I don't know, something about my confidence just goes out the window. So I completely understand where Jaleesa was coming from. Whitley has an illegal humidifier in her room and it breaks. And Millie is trying to let her know, like, girl, that's illegal. You don't need to have this in her room. You're breaking the rules. Whitley tells her, oh, so I'm just supposed to have a skin like a rhino? Honestly, there were so many quotes that I pulled from Miss Gilbert as I was watching these episodes. That girl never fails to make me laugh. Another thing that we have going on in this episode is Miss Maggie. Maggie tells Jaleesa that Denise has owed her $22 for 5 weeks. And instead of just asking Denise about it, Maggie is very passive. She doesn't like confrontation. At one point, she even asked Jaleesa if she could talk to Denise for her. And Jaleesa's like, no, this is your issue. You need to fix it. So Maggie doesn't say anything, but Denise just keeps coming in buying stuff. She bought an $8 Italian magazine. She bought this expensive hat, and Maggie is just getting irked, just getting so mad every time she sees Denise buying something. Side note, they really love to put Denise in hats, and some were super cute. But in the previous episode, she had this hat on and it looked like a helicopter preparing for takeoff. Did not like it. But Lisa Bonet, either way, is that girl. End of the episode here. We have both Jaleesa and Maggie tossing and turning. Now, Jaleesa is tossing and turning because she talked to her professor and she was talking to him about turning in a paper instead of doing the presentation because of her nerves. So that was like eating at her soul. And Maggie is tossing and turning, blowing, hitting her pillow like a toddler. Honestly, she was pissing me clean off. Girl, if you don't just stand up and ask for your money, let's be so for real. So finally, she says to Denise, you've owed me $22 for like the last 5 weeks. And Denise obviously had forgot. So she gets out of the bed and gives her her money immediately. That's all Maggie had to do in the first place. Is just tell her like, hey, I don't know if you remember, you owed me, some money. Do you have it or no? Like, what's going on? And I'm the same way too. I give people a little bit of time if they owe me money, but then, hey, let's talk about a payment plan here. You could have forgot I loaned you this money when you think you'll be able to get me some of it, if not all of it. Just have a conversation. We're grown at this point. And Jaleesa ends up actually giving her presentation. She doesn't turn in the paper, and her presentation was horrible. She still sounded like a robot. But the professor gave her a B because he was proud of her. Her research was there, and she faced her fear, and she got up there and she gave her speech. So we are super proud for Jaleesa. Throughout these episodes, we just are continuing to see how the kids are growing here, and I love that. My rewatch revelation this week is we were taught to confuse attention with affection. So we see in episode 16, Whitley and Denise are fighting over Rick, and Rick was honestly giving them breadcrumbs, okay? There was a little bit of flirt, and they thought this man was in love. That was not the move. Then Dwayne, episode 17, learning that catcalling isn't flattering, it's disrespectful. We were raised on the idea that boys being mean means they like you. Boys will be boys. We're literally teaching kids toxic behavior and that equals affection when that's not the case. I think we as a society are getting so much better at that, at teaching people to be kind and teaching people to be direct. And honestly, as a woman, I have never liked to be catcalled. If you're interested in me, just come up like an adult and say, hey, I think you're attractive. I'd like to take you to dinner. Just be for real with it. Let's not play games. And then episode 18, we had Maggie avoiding direct communication and spiraling over her money. Listen, I spiral over my money too. Instead of keeping the peace, you have to let people know when you feel uncomfortable or disrespected. And you can do that in a respectful tone. But people aren't mind readers, so we don't know what we don't know. It's really simple as that. But that's all I've got for this week's episodes. You guys let me know in the comments if you're following along with me. What did you learn as we watched these 3 episodes? If you have any questions, feel free to leave them in the comments. If you have any thoughts, feel free to read them in the comments. I want to connect and hear what my folks have to say. All right. See you next time. Bye.
And before you dip, go ahead and leave a rating and review. It really helps me grow, and it costs absolutely nothing to show your girl a little bit of love. For more nostalgia and chaos between episodes, though, which, reminder, drop every Sunday, follow at Rewatch Culture Pod on all your socials. Thanks for joining me today.